Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. In today's video, we are going to be covering IP addresses. Now, this is actually a requested video from somebody on YouTube, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's quickly go over the definition of an IP address. An IP address is a unique address that identifies a device on the internet or local network. IP stands for Internet Protocol, which is a set of rules governing the format of data sent via internet or local network. In essence, IP addresses are the identifier that allows information to be sent between devices on a network. They contain location information and make devices accessible for communication. The internet needs a way to differentiate between the different computers, routers, and websites. IP addresses provide a way of doing so and form an essential part of how the internet works. An IP address is a string of numbers separated by periods. IP addresses are expressed as a set of 4 numbers. Each number in the set can range from 0 to 255. IP addresses are not random. They are mathematically produced and allocated by the Internet Assigned Numbers Authority, IANA, a division of the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN. The ICANN is a nonprofit organization that established in the United States in 1998 to help maintain the security of the internet and allow it to be used by all. Each time anyone registers a domain on the internet, they go through a domain name registrar who pays a small fee to ICANN to register the domain. The Internet Assigned Numbers Authority, IANA, is a standard organization that oversees global IP address allocation, autonomous system number allocation, root zone management in the domain name system, and media types and other Internet protocols related symbols and Internet numbers. So if you're not already aware of this, the Internet is actually run on several protocols. Now, protocols are just a fancy word for saying rules, right? Everybody in the world agreed on a set of rules to run their internet by, right? And some of the most popular rules or the protocols we find are like the file transfer protocol and the HTTP protocol, and now the IP protocol, right? The Internet Protocol. Internet Protocol works the same way as any other language, by communicating using a set guidelines to pass information. All devices find, send, and exchange information with other connected devices using this protocol. By speaking the same language, any computer in any location can talk to one another. Now, typically the IP address is assigned by your ISP or your internet service provider from their network. Here are some of the most common internet providers that we see today. Every individual business with an internet service plan will have 2 types of IP addresses, their private IP and their public IP address. The term public and private relate to the network location. That is, a private IP address is used inside a network, while a public one is used outside a network. So when you sign up for the internet online, you get a IP address from your internet service provider, right? You usually have a router or something, and that IP address, you're on like a network, right? On your home, and every device connected on your network has an individual IP address. Like your phone has an IP address, your laptop has an IP address, Bluetooth things have IP addresses. The network needs to uniquely identify the device you're using. When you're out and about, let's say you're traveling somewhere, or you go out to the grocery store or to the shop or something, your IP address does not come with you. Your home IP address is different than, let's say, if you were to connect to another network outside of your home, you would then get a new IP address for whatever device you're using. It would only be temporary until you're back home in your own network. Now, every IP address has a private and a public IP, and we're going to go over both of them. So the reason that every device on your network has a different IP address is because your router needs a way to identify these items separately, and many items need to recognize each other. Therefore, your router generates private IP addresses that are unique identifiers for each device that differentiates them on the network. Now, a public IP address is the primary address associated with your whole network. While each connected device has its own IP address, they are also included within the main IP address for your network. As described above, your public IP address is provided to your router by your internet service provider. Typically, internet service providers have a large pool of IP addresses that they can distribute to their customers. Your public IP address is the address that all the devices outside your network will use to recognize your network. Now, there are two different types of versions of IP addresses you can get. There's a dynamic version and then a static version, and I'm going to describe the difference. A dynamic IP address change automatically and regularly. Internet service providers buy a large pool of IP addresses and assign them automatically to their customers. Periodically, they reassign them and put the older IP addresses back into the pool to be used for another customer. The rationale for this approach is to generate cost savings for the internet service provider. Automating the regular movement of IP addresses means they don't have to carry out any specific action to reestablish a customer's IP address. If they move home, for example, there are security benefits too, because a changing IP address makes it harder for criminals to hack into your network interface. In contrast to dynamic IP addresses, static addresses remain consistent. Once the network assigns an IP address, it remains the same. Most individuals and businesses do not need a static IP address, but for businesses that plan to host their own server, it is crucial to have one. This is because a static IP address ensures that websites and email addresses tied to it will have a consistent IP address, vital if you want any other devices to be able to find them consistently on the web. So currently there are two versions of IP addresses. There's IPv4 and then IPv6. Let's quickly go over them. Despite the 4 in the name, IPv4 is actually the first version of IP to be used. It was launched all the way back in 1983, and even today is still the most well-known version to identify devices on a network. The IPv4 uses a 32-bit address, which is the format that you're probably most familiar with discussing an IP address. This 32-bit address space provides almost 4.3 billion unique addresses, through some IP blocks are reserved for special uses. The IPv6 is a newer version of the IP that uses 128-bit address format that includes both numbers and letters. Okay, and they did that because of the growing number of people and devices in the world, that they couldn't just have numbers. They needed to add more characters in order to have a wider range of, devices and stuff and IP addresses. All right, guys, so that is it, all right? And I guess just to summarize, IP addresses are unique identifiers that you get from your internet service provider. They come in two versions, one with numbers and one with numbers and letters. And you could get private and public IP addresses, and they could be static or dynamic. So it all depends on your use. And if you guys are worried about your security, I would suggest get a VPN. Something that basically blocks your IP address, or basically turns a static IP address into a dynamic IP address by changing it every so often. So I think that's it, guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave me a like and a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.